the study involves, right, healthy participants receiving DMT intravenously, right? And then you're kind of documenting their experiences, right? And you mentioned in DMT, this very molecule that you were kind of expecting these kinds of enlightenment type unitive mystical experiences. Is that right? That's what both you and the participants were expecting?
Yeah, the spiritual scaffolding that I brought to bear, or the perspective, was from Zen Buddhism. I was interested in, drugs, psychedelics, but I was also interested in meditation. And I learned, or I started studying under the supervision of a Zen monastery in 1974. 14 years before I started, well, I guess, 16 years, before I gave my first dose of DMT. So I was steeped in that model, steeped in, the tradition of, Kensho, Satori, enlightenment, parinirvana, nirvana. And, the scripture of great wisdom, the Heart Sutra, there's no form, feeling, perception, consciousness or understanding. So it's a completely empty state. It's, full of potentiality, I suppose, but otherwise it's empty. It's, there isn't anything actual in there other than a lot of actual potential, but still it's, the merging. You're merged with, the, source, the sustainer of existence. There's no personality, there's no time, there's no space, there's no thought. You're completely subsumed by, some, wordless state or force. So, I was expecting that. I figured if we gave enough DMT, that would be the, default peak experience. Many of my volunteers were, meditators as well, and were expecting that, kind of peak experience. And as it, turned out, only one person out of, nearly 5 dozen, volunteers had that kind of experience. And it's interesting, to note that volunteer was a religious studies major in college and was very keen on the mystical unitive experience, and was, part of part of a religious organization or group that strove, for that kind of experience. And so he was, the only, person who had, I guess, what you would call a classical mystical unitive effect. Everything else, was interactive. It was, full of content. The beings in there, the energy, the intelligence in the state itself was, it was other. It was, something else and very real. And, people maintained their personalities and their ability to interact, ask questions, receive answers, direct, their attention here and there. So it in a way, was the opposite of what both, they and I expected.